Greetings and salutations, and we're back again with the Woodless run. Now, what I did in the previous one is I finally found a village that actually had a crafting table. So I procured the crafting table. I harvested the town golem for iron to finish a pickaxe, and I'm borrowing one of their domiciles for the near future. I plan on digging underneath the structure here all the way down, but I need torches. In order to get the torches, I've decided that the simplest way of doing that would be to come out here to, I think it's right back here, right behind the pig. No, where did I put it? There's a hole in the ground that I was going to do like a strip mine, where I was going to just start cutting straight down, but in an open pit. Yeah, I'll just pick an area out behind the old building, probably right over there or something. And I'm just going to do basically what is essentially a strip mine. Here looks good. Now, eventually, I'm going to use the coal that I get out of the strip mine to use torches to build the actual mine shaft underneath the building. Again, the same rules apply. I'm not allowed to actually harvest wood. I'm not allowed to craft anything with planks. I'm not allowed to use planks of any description. I'm not allowed to use logs of any description. Which is why the bamboo giving me sticks is a beautiful little loophole. Because it doesn't give me actual planks. So I could have harvested leaves off of trees, but that would take me, that would have taken me thousands of hours. So I figure going about it this way seems a little more expedient. And I'll eventually use this dirt for something, whether it be building an actual permanent domicile somewhere, or eventually building crops to feed myself. Something will come up. Now, normally I torch things off in a nice little cubic manner, but because I don't have torches, because I don't have coal, and I can't make charcoal, I'm left with very little option. The only option I have is breaking my shovel. Matter of fact, we'll put that dirt back. I'm going to start digging down. I'm going to go back over to here. I'm going to start digging down from like here to here square. So kind of like that. And the whole premise of it is going to be digging downward in a giant spiral, using the natural topography as staircase. That way I don't have to fiddle about making stairs and using slabs and stuff like that. Now, for storage, that's going to be a bit of a problem. I'm going to probably have to playfully harvest more storage off of other villages, which would mean another adventure, considering I can't use barrels. Or, there's another chest, or I can use copper. If I can get my hands on enough copper, I can solve that problem. No problem at all. I have to go out and harvest one of my bamboo things for sticks so I can make another shovel. Does it keep growing if I cut it down like that? Hopefully. If it doesn't, I'll have to cut it all down, like, completely. Really? Ow. Hopefully it functions like, sugarcane and just bounces right back. If it doesn't, I'm in for Agony City. So, I'm going to have to keep some bamboo left over just in case. Because if I run out of bamboo, I'm in trouble. So let's see. I hate it when they do this. Thank you. That's much simpler. It's not a very efficient way of getting sticks, I will say that. But it is... It's something. This is going to be a really, really long, potentially long playthrough. And I was going to hesitate to say a long playthrough because if you think about it, this is going to be the first stage down right here. Because if you think about it, right, I can set out to start digging down. The goal is just to get to the nether without using wood. That's the goal. That's it. Once I get there, goal will have been achieved, and I can then continue the game normally, doing what have you. Don't know if I will, but just the fact that I can makes it a whole lot easier to work around, work with, so on and so forth. Because I generally build megalithic structures, usually. This is the first time I've done something a little bit out of character, if nothing else. Usually not one for Minecraft challenges. As a matter of fact, I had a discussion. I've had a discussion with a few people. And maybe the comment section can help me somehow sort out what the point is. So, from what I'm told, there is a trial chamber, so to speak. And said trial chamber has a mace in it. And this mace does 4 damage. Has +4 attack. That's it. And then I asked, it was my nephew actually that brought it up. And I asked him, I said, well, how much does an iron sword give? And he says, an iron sword gives 5 attack. I said, so why on earth would anybody go and find the trial chamber for -1 attack on a weapon? And he said, well, for every 2 blocks you jump off of with the mace, you get +1 damage. Well, not 2 blocks, but for every block you jump off of and swing, you get an extra point of attack. Okay, so to outpace the sword, you'd have to jump off a 2-block height. But is it worth it? I mean, realistically, you're having to do gymnastics like some sort of wild animal. Doesn't seem like a feasible use of an item. I'll have to make another few stone shovels to get through the dirt. Hopefully the bamboo keeps going. Because if the bamboo keeps growing the way it's growing, I should have no problems. Oh, sweet, it does regenerate. Nice. That becomes an endless supply of sticks. Which is very good for the overall run. You know what? I'm going to go one further. I'll build an iron shovel. No, not a block of iron. And then that way I can really clear out a lot of the stuff the next day. Now, personally, I generally dig straight down underneath my building. Like that. And it's usually a 3x3 or a 5x5, something that I can manage. And then you use torches all the way down every 4 blocks. And people generally ask me why every 4 blocks. You place a torch and then you put 3 spaces, you place a torch. Boom. And the reason I do every 4 blocks is simple. It's a mathematical gauge, in addition to it being torchlight. People thought I was like afraid of the dark in Minecraft, and it's like, no, I do a torch every 4 blocks because it's a mathematical gauge, and it allows you to take a look at simplistic number of torches and say, oh, okay, that's 80 blocks deep because I can see 20 torches. Right? So you can just look down, take a count of your torches, and then you know exactly how deep your mine shaft or your hole that you're digging goes. It's a very crude, rudimentary way of getting a depth gauge going, but at the same time, it's functional, and that's kind of what I go by is functionality. I try to find the most functional thing and then do it. Like, not necessarily specifically this, but making a cobblestone generator. Normally, hey, coal, there we go, that helps. Normally, when you run a cobblestone generator, it requires redstone and all that stuff. And that's generally what I do, is I generally make a redstone-powered cobblestone generator. Because, well, why wouldn't I? And I'm not very talented with redstone, just for future reference. But I do the redstone generator because you can turn it on and turn it off. It's a redstone flasher, so the turning on and off is at best, it's not necessarily a switch. You can't switch it on, switch it off at will or at whim, and I apologize for future reference for my camera cutting in and out. Those are the joys of working unedited, by the way. So if I just disappear in the lower left corner, NVIDIA Broadcast decided it's done for that moment, and it was going to just clock out for a few seconds and be like, sorry, boss, I'll be back later. 15-minute break and all. And it does that. And it's a common occurrence now. I think it has to do with the latest NVIDIA patch I got for my graphics card. They'll fix it eventually. It's not high on the priorities, I'm sure. Desperately needed the coal. Good, there's a lot of it. Now, my question is can I burn bamboo in the furnace to fire materials like ingots? Otherwise, we're in for a bad time. Because that means I'd have to find a whole boatload more coal before I find anything else. Then again, I can use copper tools. I don't think copper can mine gold. And the pickaxe breaks now. Close enough. I mean, we're not even that many blocks down, and we already found coal. What are we, like 5? 6. 6 blocks down, we found a rather, I would say, a decent amount of coal. I wouldn't go so far as to say it was a large amount of coal. Whoa. I really need to make a sword. You come out here and harvest this quicker. And no, I will not slaughter the cows for food. I'll wait to get a bucket, and I will grow my own crops. Can I help you? Oh, he's a librarian. He's probably not happy with some dude just taking over his library. Not that I care. Now the test. Bamboo. Block. Aha! It does work. Works poorly, but it works. Okay. Like the whole measure twice, cut once kind of deal. I need one of those too. And then I need torches. You can see where the kind of bind is going to come in, right? Where I'm going to desperately need specific materials and I won't be able to get my hands on them at the moment. It's so much easier to farm it with the bamboo with the sword than it is anything else. But it wreaks havoc on that. I can even expand my bamboo fields, so I could do that real quick. Before nightfall. I don't want to expand too far out that way. Interesting. Let's get digging. Then I can make more ladders after I get more sticks. After I get more bamboo. It's crazy. Like the amount of steps just the amount of extra steps you have to go through. I've already noticed that currently is the amount of extra steps I had to go through. Now I crafted that furnace, I didn't take it. As a matter of fact, if I take this chest out because I'm probably gonna need it. Perfect. Let's see. I'm hoping I run into some gravel because I need the flint and steel. I'm gonna wait. Do I have flint and steel from when I got that disheveled portal? That's right. So I've got that. So all I need, and I have 2 obsidian from the same disheveled portal and the fire charge. So all I lack is obsidian and a bucket to make obsidian with water and lava. Once I solve that problem, I won't have an issue because then I could just make the portal, strike it, walk through, challenge done. Finding diamond. That's going to be the next giant hurdle. The fact that the first, I don't even know what this one is, I think it's number 5. The fact that the first 3.5 episodes, 3 3/4 episodes, was me finding a crafting table should tell you something. That's number 1. Number 2, it's kind of reminds me of like it's an older text-based game. You probably won't remember it. A lot of people won't because it's, well, text-based, and that's one of those things that kind of went by the wayside back in the day. It was a game. It was brought up for the Commodore 64. I know. I'm dating myself right now by saying Commodore 64. But at any rate, the game was called Sea-Base Delta. Sea-Base Delta was a text-based game where you had to pretty much solve a murder mystery in some regard. And it was quite an interesting game. As such, this kind of feels like that in such a way that you have to take extra steps to perform the basic functions. Like in Sea-Base Delta, one of the basic functions was like go east. Buckle belt. Examine. And in this, when you do it this way with restricting yourself to not using wood, it's taking extra steps to achieve the same goal. Like the whole finding diamonds part, right? Finding diamonds is probably going to be a big issue. Now, I could, theoretically, turn this entire strip mine, I could cover it up in dirt and put torches out here and build a little tiny mining camp around it once I have iron, and I can make an iron door with a stone button. But then it's like, do I really want to use the iron for that? And the first 3 iron I'm going to get is going to be a bucket. Probably the first 6 iron I'm going to get is going to be 2 buckets. Build a copper door. So I get my hands on copper. I'll be better off. Really don't want to use the coal as fuel in the furnace. Bucket would be great because then I can use lava as fuel. Just throw the bucket of lava in there, pull the bucket out. Now you have yourself an active furnace. It work. Maybe not the most expedient way of doing things, but what's a few extra steps, right? I want to use that. I am probably going to make cobblestone stairs, or cobblestone slabs, I should say. That way I can walk down quicker. Matter of fact, there we go. Well, went too fast and made a stone hoe. You know what that means. Oh, you can't even burn it for the wood? Shame. Reminds me of that meme. It's like you won't get anywhere hoeing like that. God, that's an old meme, though. If anybody knows what that anime is, let me know. It seems like it's a nice little slice of life farming anime, which would be refreshing. There we go. I know that that's going to bother people because it's going to be made of cobblestone, or they're going to be like, you could have made it into smooth stone. And it's like, am I really going to go for the aesthetically pleasing stairs right now? Dude. I'm just going for functionality, cheap levels of functionality. Like, for example, when you're making your domicile, normally, your house, your base, whatever you want to call it. That's why domicile works so well as a term. Because it's a place you live, it's also a place you function, it's a place you farm things. It's a domicile. When you make that normally in any other Minecraft game, your best bet is quite literally to use glass panes for the walls. You put up your four corner pillars and then you put up glass panes for the walls. The reason why you put up glass panes instead of glass block is spiders that want to climb up on the top of your building can't. Because the glass panes sit in the middle of the block. And when they sit in the middle of the block, the spiders can only climb up, but they can't get around the outside of that block at the top. So now they're unfortunately forced to sit there in perpetuity until you leave. Then they can come after you, but it's to spider-proof the roof. You know, having a strategic layout like that is ideal. Just because. Strategically, I mean, I like to look at things strategically. I like to look at things almost like a robot would. Which, of course, people say is a downfall, but it's a blessing and a curse. You look at things robotically and you do things robotically, then you realize how simplistic something is, and you can just not really focus on what you're doing and kind of autopilot. I've mined enough cobblestone in the past 3 Minecraft worlds that I've done, 2 of which have megaliths in them, one of which used cut stone cobblestone, or cut stone like this. It used cut brick stone that I mined each and every piece of. And I still had to use my cobblestone generator to do it. Just that alone should tell you exactly how much stone I used. And I used it to make a big, what's the word I'm looking for? I almost want to say plinth, but it wasn't. It was the footer. It was like it was kind of like a pyramid footer for a pantheon with a giant copper creeper on it. And the top part of the pantheon is made out of diorite. The only thing unfinished on it is the bone pillars. Friend of mine, Peter, he joined the world and he was streaming at the time, and I was just kind of goofing off. And he was like, somebody asked him in his chat if that was solid cut stone. And he goes, oh yeah, oh yeah. And I said, yeah, it's solid all the way through. And I just dug all the way down. He dug all the way down, and he placed all the stone back. And the people were thinking, man, this guy's insane. And it's like, no. That part didn't bother me. The whole doing the cut stone with cobblestone, because it's just mindless grinding. And it's like, you played an MMO, mindless grinding is kind of the name of the game. So doing something completely mindless like that doesn't bother me in the least. However, the part that really got to me, and I would say drove me mildly insane, was getting the materials for the diorite, the polished diorite. Because the polished diorite was going to drive me up the wall. Originally, I wanted to make the entire pantheon out of polished diorite. But after finding that diorite was not all that common, I opted for a more how do I want to put this? Readily accessible medium to work with. Yes, we know, cow. I mean, it's not bad. I'm finally getting a nice amount of sticks available, so that's a plus. I'm gonna start putting all my cobblestone there because it's gonna be a lot of it. Not even gonna be all that much dirt anymore. I need to make more torches and go straight down. And no, I'm not allowed to make bamboo planks either. I'm not allowed to put all the bamboo together and make a plank. It doesn't work. It's it's not that it doesn't work. It's just not allowed. So that's a thing. We're gonna continue the tunnel. See? So now you put the torch there, and now you know that you're exactly 4+ blocks down. You're 4 blocks down from the just under the surface layer. Aha, more coal. And a broken pick. You know, what this reminds me of outside of Sea-Based Delta? A less effective um Stardew Valley. Every day I gotta get up. Every day I gotta check my farm of bamboo. And yet, I don't sit here and regret any of the decisions I've made. None. Because to me, this is what I would deem fun. A lot of people wouldn't. A lot of people would be like, how could you do that? It's incredibly boring. And it's like, it's about being resourceful, which is the one thing that I've been trying to educate multiple people on, is being resourceful when the time is right. Granted, this is just in a game, but that resourceful thinking doesn't go away. You know, being able to look at something and say, okay, well, what if we did this? What if we used that? So on and so forth. Maybe I should just use the iron pickaxe for that. That way I can just carve right through it real quick. Wow. Uh, Quite the amount of coal. It's a good thing. And yes, I do block off every spare bit that I find. That way I know that I found something there and I don't leave it wide open. I don't risk anything spawning in there. I don't risk, wondering what was that, what was in there, and then continue down an empty pathway. Yeah. So I block them off for a reason. Method to my madness. That, and it also saves on inventory space later on. Because you don't need to carry all the stuff. Allows you to empty out like cobblestone or dirt out of your inventory. It allows you to free up some room, essentially. So it's a twofold benefit. But the resourceful thinking is something that is very helpful. And how it helped me one time, this is not a joke. We were I was in the it was a PT Cruiser. So I was in the vehicle, I was in the car. Basically being the navigator for my mom. And the reason I say being the navigator is she's doing better now, but she had what's called Wilson's syndrome. Now, Wilson's syndrome, if for those that don't know, is a thyroid disorder, and it does give you some memory issues. And so I was having to navigate her back. We were having to navigate back home from one of her doctor's appointments, which was a specialist that worked with Wilson syndrome patients. And so, as we're navigating back, we hit a bear with the car. We hit it in the left front fender. And we hit it going a decent clip. I mean, like, we were going 55, 60. We hit that bear. Did not set off the airbags. And she kind of panicked. Rightfully so. We just struck something, You never really know what you hit. I mean, I was panicked too, because I was like, what on earth did we just hit? And she's like, that was a bear. And I'm like, okay, we hit a bear. So we need to check out the damage, essentially. And she goes, well, what do I do? Well, on the way down, we had gone by the casino. We drove by it, and we are on the way back, which drives us right by the casino again. I said, at first she was like, should I stop? I said, no. And she goes, why not? And I said, because it's a bear. I said, if it's a full-grown bear, it's going to get up, it's not going to be too happy, and it's going to want to take a piece out of anybody that moves. I said, and if it's not a full-grown bear, and it's a cub, I said, its mom's not going to be too far behind, and she's not going to be too happy, and she's going to want to take a piece out of anybody that moves. So she's like, well, what do I do? And I said, we're going to go to the casino. And she goes, why? And I said, slow-moving traffic and a lot of lights, because there's tons of lights at the casino, and there's tons of slow-moving cars. So we get to the casino, just outside, little T-junction. Right underneath the bright LED lights. As soon as she presses on the brake, just steam and smoke is just boiling out from underneath the car. I told her, I was like, shut it off. Shut it off. So she shuts the car off. And we flagged down a guy. We offered to use his phone because she didn't have a cell phone. And I didn't have mine. Lesson there is you never leave home without a cell phone. But we didn't have one. She didn't have one at the time. She's like, I have no need for one at the time. And I didn't have mine on me. I left it at home. Because I didn't see a reason of bringing it with me. That was my mistake. That's kind of where the whole, never leave home without it kind of comes in. Nevertheless, we flagged down a guy. We use his phone. We call the police. State police come out. They want to know how far back we hit the bear. And they're like, do you know what you hit? And I said, well, yeah, we hit a bear. Officer kind of looked at me. He goes, okay. He's like, that's not uncommon around here. We get some reports of that around here. Okay. How far back did you hit it? I said, I don't know. I said, 10, 15 minutes back up the road. He's like, 10, 15 minutes. Yeah. He looked the car over and he's like, how'd you get the car here? I said, drove it. And he's like, after hitting the bear. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, he's like, I was thinking about buying one of these things, but after seeing how much damage this took from a bear and was still drivable, he's like, I'm sold. And he's like, why'd you leave the scene? I said, well, I gave him the same exact reason. I said, well, if it's an adult bear, it's going to stand up. It's not going to be too happy. It's going to shake it off. I said, and it's going to attack the next person it sees because it's going to be upset. It's going to have an awful bad headache. And I said, and if it's not an adult bear and it's a cub, I said, mom's going to be right behind. And she ain't going to be too happy because her cub got hit. And she's going to maul the next thing she sees. And the cop just kind of looked at me with a stone face and he goes, good point. I'd have left. And I was like, yep. So he called another, because he was still busy there taking our statements about what what happened and how fast we were going, and he was taking photos of the wheel wells that had fur in it still, or not the wheel well, but the rim that still had fur in it. And he's just looking the car all over and everything. After he took our statements, he had another car come out, and the guy went up the road about 10, 15 minutes. And as he's sitting there taking the statement, we hear over the radio, yeah, we found the spot. There's blood and hair in the road. No bear, though. I looked right at the officer. I said, see? Probably a good thing I left, huh? And he goes, yeah, probably a good idea. It's probably a good idea. So I asked the guy right after he said that. He called the tow truck, of course, and because he wanted to know if it was still drivable. I said I wouldn't risk it. I said all the steam and smoke were boiling up out of it. I told her to just shut it off. I said I didn't want to risk it. He called the tow truck flatbed, and as we were waiting for that to get there, we were talking with him, and I said, got a question. He goes, what's that? And I said, because my mom's car was like a burgundy purple color. This is more on the purple side of burgundy than it was on the red side of burgundy. And I said, considering the bear got up and walked away, I said, I'm really curious. Do you think that bear's going to be horrified by every purple vehicle that goes by? You think he's going to have like PTSD from the shock of being hit? And it's just going to be like, no, I ain't going anywhere near that road. Not with that purple demon out there. And we had a good laugh about it. Because when you think about it, right? Animals generally, when they incur some sort of pain, they're never going to do that thing again, which is why, you train animals in a certain way. Now, I don't like inflicting pain on an animal at all. I really don't. And some of the circus animals and stuff like that get trained, they use pain as a negative influence. So if they do something they don't like, they train it with generally some cruel form of act that I don't agree with. And they do that for circus training. So, with animals reacting to pain in that way, it made me wonder, would the bear react the same way? But with burgundy colored cars. Because psychologically it saw the car, and unless what bears are colorblind to it, you'd figure it would equate that color with pain. So that's what was really curious that's what was popping up in my head. I'm like, well, wouldn't that be the case? That's me. That's where my mind went. Of course, I was not the case. They never did find the bear either. Like, they never found evidence that the bear died. They sent out a crew a little bit even later, and we were still there. The cop was still there, still talking to us. And they sent a crew out into the woods, and they said they found a small amount of blood on a trail, and they said there was no evidence that the bear was in the woods. It's just gone. So, who knows? They definitely got up and walked away. They said there was no. They said there was just fur and blood in the road, and some small parts of the vehicle that broke off. Other than that, no evidence of a bear carcass anywhere near the scene, so the bear survived. Yeah. Fun times. But that's the type of resourcefulness that I'm talking about, is being able to have a moment where you're not going to think clearly, and then you pause and you think, okay, what's the one thing we need? You know, you're not going to flag somebody down on a highway where people can do 55, 60, 65, 70. You're not going to flag anybody down. They're not even going to notice it. And sitting there on the side of the highway is dangerous, because you know, there are people out there that don't pay attention, and they won't even see your vehicle, considering it was a dark purple. It was on the purple side of Burgundy. They wouldn't have even seen it. They could have just clipped us. So I was like, having that type of mental reaction is what I'm talking about when I say resourcefulness. Because then it's like, you're sitting there thinking, okay, I have to get out of this location because the immediate hazard is the bear. The secondary hazard is the traffic. The tertiary hazard is the fact that if we don't flag anybody down, we can't get back home. So, you know, we'd have to hoof it. And you don't want to hoof it down a dark highway. And you don't want to sit there in the car until tomorrow and hang a shirt or something out the window. So because the tertiary hazard is somebody could just come up and be like, oh, hey, well, we're just going to loot what's left in the car and then just walk off. Because that's a possibility too. There are those people out there that would take advantage of people that are derelict on the roadside, right? So being able to assess the dangers, calculate the risks, calculate the risk that, yeah, what's the worst that could happen? Well, we could get written a ticket, a citation for leaving the scene of an accident. True, we could have. The cop didn't do that because, well, it wasn't a deer, it was a bear. And I said we don't have a cell phone, so we needed to flag somebody down. And then, you know, because he talked to the guy that we flagged down as well. And the guy's like, yeah, he's like, they were just standing here flagging me down. And then they asked if, you know, he could use the phone. And he said, yeah, sure. So, because he was the one that called the police. And, so, yeah. It was just having, like, that sense about you to sort things out and be resourceful about how to get it done the most efficient way and the most expedient way. That type of resourcefulness has to be taught through basically having it happen. You can't, unless you stage an event where the resourcefulness has to come in and kick in, chances are people don't develop that naturally. And in fact, it's going the other way. There's a lot of people that don't even have risk assessment anymore, and they will do foolish things and hurt themselves and risk others for 15 minutes of fame. And to me, that's like galactic level foolishness. And of course, people would say, well, that's hypocritical. Aren't you just being on YouTube as well? Well, yeah, I am. I'm on YouTube. A, I'm not doing foolish things. B, if they want to do foolish things, fine. That's their proclivity. That's their life. I don't agree with it. And I think that having a lack of risk assessment is a bad thing. But I also think that if they're happy doing it, let them. Right? If they're not hurting anyone else and they're happy doing it, let them. Fine and dandy. The downside of it is, of course, I'm also not doing this for fame. If fame and money comes with it, bonus. It's a bonus. And the reason I say that is simple. I'm not driven by fame nor money. I'm driven by making unedited content. Because there's very few people that do. And pretty much everything else exists out. A ton of over editing. And I thought to myself, you know what? It'll be the refreshing change the world needs. To just leave it up there as is, whatever. Wherever the chips fall, they fall. Some people would say that's a level of callousness. Some people would say that I don't care about my production value, that I don't care about the quality of my entertainment. To which I say, the entertainment quality will stand on itself, or it will fail. And that the only reason I'm doing this and putting it up on YouTube is I'm going to play the game anyway. Why not broadcast it? Some people might like it. Some people might not. Some people might just show up for the philosophical talk. Some people might just show up just to see me fail. Which I've had a few of those. But whatever the reason they show up, I do appreciate every single view. I appreciate every single person that comes in. I appreciate every single comment. And I reply to as many comments as I can see. Now I say this, and I say this for future reference, I can't say I replied to every comment. I've replied to every comment so far, so long as it involves me. Like, there was one or two areas where people were having a discussion amongst themselves, and I walked away from that discussion because it had nothing to do with me. It was one person discussing with another individual, and I left them to it in the comment section, which is perfectly fine. They're allowed to. It's a comment section. I'm not going to moderate it. YouTube usually has a moderation thing, and YouTube usually has a thing where they're like, oh, hey, there could be this, that, or the other thing that they have a problem with. It doesn't really matter. Not, if somebody voices an opinion in the comment section and somebody else has an issue with it, it's up to you guys to sort it out. If you have a problem with somebody's comment in the comment section and you report him, that's on you guys, not on me. My opinions are my opinions on here, and other people's opinions in the comments are other people's opinions in the comments. Two separate things. However, I replied to every single comment, but in the future that will be almost untenable. Assuming the rate of growth of the channel, assuming the rate of the growth of the views and everything, assuming the channel keeps going the way it's going, or if it takes off. If this channel takes off, then guess what? There's no possible way I'll be able to keep up with the comments. It'll be an 8-hour workday just to keep up with the comments. But I try to answer all the comments as much as possible, because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to interact with the base. And I don't use AI to make comments or anything. I just write the comments myself, type them up, send them. Put you up there, and then we're going to put 2. Nice. Copper. Welcome to the Copper Age. But that is going to do it for this video. And I appreciate, like I said, I appreciate every single person that comes out and watches this video. And I appreciate the people that watch it all the way to the end. I mean, there's no mandate that says they have to. And when they do, it's great to see. And I hope people enjoy the series. I'm thoroughly having a great time with it, and I look forward to more of it, honestly. I also look forward to other things. Like, I'm really liking the Free Game Friday thing I'm doing, and I really hope other people like that as well. Nevertheless, I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, a wonderful tomorrow, and as always, have a good one.